No March Madness, no problem. We have got 3 best bets today for college basketball because I present to you the purple CBI, which is known as the College Basketball Invitational. We're in the second round of the CBI. I think before we get into the best bets today, we should probably talk about the CBI tournament as a whole to see how we got here. Obviously, you know of the NIT, you know of the crown that's going to be starting, I believe, tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll get into that, obviously, with our best bets for that. But the CBI is also a thing. It's been a thing since 2007. It's the tournament that does get overlooked, let's just be honest, because of March Madness, because of the NIT, and now potentially with the crown. But we get to talk about this tournament real quick. I will show you guys the bracket, and here it is. So Illinois State yesterday beat Presbyterian. Originally, that cesspool known as UC Riverside was supposed to be in this bracket, but they decided to go to the NIT, as you can see right here. So instead, Illinois State just gets advanced all the way to the semifinals. Incarnate Word yesterday beat Manhattan, so they play Jacksonville today, and we'll get to that obviously in all the games today. Army pulled off the upset against Elon, so they play Florida Gulf Coast, and Queens beat Northern Arizona, which I would have to consider an upset as well, setting up for their matchup against Cleveland State today. So we'll get to the entire CBI today. But I thought we'd go through that entire bracket real quickly. And folks, before we get into the best bets, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. Tomorrow, we have just the crown. We've got 4 games. Oh, no, the crown's on Wednesday. Nope, the crown's next week. Tomorrow we have NIT action plus the CBI semifinals. So make sure to join us for that here on the channel. And also later today we will have our NBA predictions up on the channel as well. And on Greedo Plays MMA, yesterday we posted our UFC Mexico predictions. Brandon Moreno, Steve Erceg in the main event for the UFC. Make sure to check that video out on Greedo Plays MMA and subscribe to Greedo Plays MMA while you're at it as well. Okay, on to the first of our 3 games today. So, we can't really be selective of what we get today because there's only 3 games in college basketball. If you're watching this video when it first comes out, this game's in 2 hours. Incarnate Word versus the Jacksonville Dolphins. So obviously Jacksonville got their bye, and Incarnate Word yesterday with a big victory over Manhattan, winning the game 92-85. A couple of teams that I'll be honest with you, I didn't think we were going to get the chance to talk about anymore this season. I thought we kind of said goodbye to both Incarnate Word and Jacksonville, but here we are, and I think the theme of today's video, guys, is going to be the ASUN Conference, okay? And I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. I think Jacksonville does beat Incarnate Word. I was a Jacksonville Dolphins hater. If there's anyone on this planet that is a Jacksonville Dolphins hater, it was me this year. I picked against Jacksonville so many times, and now they're back. The thing is, I just don't think Incarnate Word is good. I just don't think so. They went 9-11 in Southland Conference play, 18-16 as a whole this year, and they beat Manhattan. All right, beating the Jaspers is nothing special. The MAAC was just, it's not a very good conference. And Incarnate Word, again, gets rid of the Jaspers. They beat them by 7 points. Incarnate Word was in control for most of the basketball game. That entire second half, I think, was led by Incarnate Word. Yeah, Manhattan made some, pushes, but ultimately the Cardinals won the basketball game. But at the same time, it's a game they're expected to win. They're taking on Jacksonville here, who, again, I picked a lot. I picked against Jacksonville a lot in the regular season, and once they got to the ASUN tournament as well, we thought Northern Alabama was going to beat them, how we thought Eastern Kentucky was going to beat them in the first round as well. And you can't talk about Jacksonville Dolphins basketball without talking about their star guard, Robert McCray. And ultimately, everything past McCray is why I decided to fade this team a lot down the stretch of the season. Because yes, we know how good Robert McCray is. He's a player who averages 16.5, 5 and 5 a night. But beyond McCray, my goodness, there's just a lot left to be desired. Kendall Munson's a guy who averages 9. Zach Bell averages 9. Zimi Nwijiki, I probably butchered that. Definitely did. But all these guys average 9 points a game. And yes, McCray is good. The supporting cast around him is just shaky to, shaky to put it at best. I mean, Incarnate Word, this is a team that was very mediocre in the Southland, though, led by a couple really good scorers, though. Davian Bailey, Dylan Heyman, Jalen Anderson. This team does score a lot more than Jacksonville, but at the same time, the Dolphins play better defense, and I just don't think they're going to allow Incarnate Word to score the 92 points they put up against Manhattan yesterday. They were led in scoring by Dylan Heyman, who has been one of their leading scorers all year long, the senior out of Healdsburg, California. dropped 25 in that game. Hell, he dropped 29 points in their Southland Tournament quarterfinal loss to Nichols in overtime. But I think the Jacksonville Dolphins do win this game. I'm going to stop hating on Jacksonville here. I think I look at Incarnate Word and their entire body of work this season. Sure, they will have high-scoring affairs, but at the same time, they give up a lot of points too. And when they take on a better defensive team and just a better all-around team tonight in Jacksonville, I ultimately think they lose the basketball game. They weren't the most impressive down the stretch. I think their best victory, towards the end of the year was at the game in the conference tournament over Southeastern Louisiana, where they got rid of the Lions and beat them by 4 points in overtime. But I don't think this team plays the best defense. We've seen teams drop 80 on their head earlier in the year. Hell, when they played Southeastern Louisiana the first time around at SC Louisiana, they lost 86-63. They lost to Texas A&M Corpus Christi this year. UT Rio Grande Valley beat them 85-78. A lot of Houston Christian dropped 80 on their head. And I'm not telling you Jacksonville's the most prolific offense. They're not that good. I don't. Is that the word, prolific? Anyways, English is hard sometimes. I'm not even trying to tell you guys Jacksonville's a great offense. I just think Incarnate Word doesn't really play all that well defensively. I'd expect Robert McCray to have a big night, and at the same time, I think the Dolphins are able to shut them down in terms of their scoring abilities too. So I'm going to take the Jacksonville Dolphins here in our CBI opener today in the quarterfinals. I think they win in advance to take on Illinois State, who obviously again got that bye from beating Presbyterian by 8 points yesterday. So give me the Jacksonville Dolphins. You look at the spread, -3.5. I think they do cover at the same time. We're going to take Jacksonville to open the day to win and cover the 3.5 points. We go on to our second game of the day, and we go to by far the largest spread of the day. Of course, this entire tournament being played at the Ocean Center in Daytona Beach, Florida. We get Florida Gulf Coast taking on the Army Black Knights. Now, you might recognize Florida Gulf Coast because of Brandon Dwyer, obviously, the big TikTok guy. I believe Dwyer's playing in this tournament, right? I believe. I mean, this has been a big talking point of college basketball TikTok recently. Regardless, he's on TikTok, and he hasn't scored a point in 4 years in college basketball. So I think Dwyer gets that opportunity tonight. I actually think Florida Gulf Coast blows Army out. So maybe Dwyer does score tonight. FGCU, not the best team, I'm not going to lie to you, but they did go on a little bit of a run to close the regular season in the A-Sun and ultimately had their season ended by Queens University, who, trust me, we'll get to them in just a few moments. But I said earlier, the theme of today's video is going to be the A-Sun Conference, and that's exactly what's going to happen. I think Florida Gulf Coast picks up a win as well, and it moves on to the semifinals. I do think they beat Army here, and I think they beat them pretty easily. FGCU is bad to start the season. Don't get me wrong. This is a team that started 1-5 to start the year. They played fairly well though in A-Sun play. They finished 13-5 of the conference, and unfortunately, Queens University went to their place in the first round of the A-Sun tourney, and ultimately Queens beat them 71-65. So FGCU gets rewarded by playing in the CBI this year, and a lot of A-Sun teams got rewarded. We're going to talk about the other one in a second with Queens. But FGCU has made their way to the CBI, taking on an Army team, which I'm kind of surprised they're in this tournament. Did Bucknell decline? Or did Navy decline? Because I think Navy and Bucknell are probably the two better teams than Army. But here's Army. Now, okay. Army was so just off and on this entire year. They had games where they were kind of impressive. Their last win prior to their CBI victory yesterday over Elon was over American University, who ended up going to the NCAA tournament, obviously losing the first four to Mount St. Mary's. But that was their last win. They then proceeded to lose 4 games in a row, the tail end of the regular season, losing to Bucknell by 30 points after beating American, losing to Lafayette on the road and getting blown out, losing by 22 to Lee, and then Colgate in the first round of the tournament. They went to Colgate and lost by 29 points. Really odd stuff. But then all of a sudden they beat Elon yesterday? I'm going to be honest, I wasn't really paying too close of attention to the CBI yesterday. But if I was, I probably would have taken Elon -4.5. I get it, the Phoenix were not very good down the stretch of their season either. But really? I kind of treat the CAA better than I do the Patriot League. So I'm just surprised, first off, that Army won that basketball game. Now, again, because of the way they finished the regular season, and you got to give a lot of credit to their leading scorer. We've talked about Jalen Rucker a lot in the regular season. He was great in the Elon game, but, well, he scored 27 points, but he went 3 of 11 from beyond the arc, 6 from 20 from the field. He just shot 12 of 15 free throws. Ryan Curry was, a pretty big factor in this game as well. Hit hit 4 3-pointers in this game, had 14 points in total, and Jordan Everson as well had 22 points for the Black Knights in their victory over the Elon Phoenix. Guys, I just don't expect this game to be close. There's levels to this stuff. There is. You know, Army with the 4 straight losses to close Patriot League play. I'm surprised they're even in this spot in the first place. I'm surprised they beat Elon. And sure, Jalen Rucker can score, but I don't know. Jalen Rucker's 5'10". He's really short, and he will have games where he just gets outplayed at the point guard position. He'll have Dalian Johnson on him all game long, and Dalian Johnson's the best player for FGCU. He's a senior out of Boston, Massachusetts, played at Penn State, now at Florida Gulf Coast. Had a good game over Bellarmine to end the ASUN regular season play. He had 26 points in that game. I'm not going to tell you Dalian Johnson's the best defensive player. He's not all conference defense best, but he's going to be good enough, I think, to limit the production out of Jalen Rucker, who again is very good, but undersized at 5'10". Now, it will be interesting to see if Everson is another big night. He's a guy who averaged 5 points in the regular season. He is a 4 for this team, junior out of Willingston, North Dakota. Randomly exploded for 22 points in the Elon game. This is a guy who would average about 5-8 minutes a night, and he played 26 over Elon and scored 22. So we'll see again if we see Everson break out and score a bunch of points tonight. But ultimately, I'm going with Florida Gulf Coast to win. I do think ultimately they blow this Army team out, and I think Brandon Dwyer actually does score. Okay, I think they're going to make it a point of getting Dwyer to score. Why? I don't know if FGCU really wants him around next season. I'm just going to be honest. Now, why wouldn't they? He's got a bunch of followers on TikTok. It's the only reason people know what Florida Gulf Coast basketball is half the time. Now, I'm not going to lie. Isn't there like some scandal going on with Brandon Dwyer right now? I'm not really paying attention. You look at every Brandon Dwyer TikTok right now and all the comments are, respond to whatever. I genuinely just don't know what's going on. So, I don't know. But I'm assuming Dwyer is playing. I don't think it's like a criminal case. I don't think. I think he's playing. Anyways, give me Florida Gulf Coast. Dalian Johnson can score. Keyshawn Kelman's pretty solid as well. Xavier McLean. I mean, they've got players on the squad, and trust me, they're much better than Army. We're taking one of the ASUN's best over the Patriot League's, middle of the pack team. We're taking Florida Gulf Coast. I just don't think Army's going to be able to score. I'd expect Army to score about like 60 points in this game. I think easily FGCU gets into the 70s and probably into the 80s. I would expect this to be about a 20-point blowout for Florida Gulf Coast. They should be able to get it done and move on to the semifinals of the CBI tournament, where they will take on, in my opinion, another team from the ASUN. Give me Queens University to beat Cleveland State. Might be a hot take. This is the big underdog play of the day, but man, I'm surprised and impressed with the Royals' ability to beat Northern Arizona in the first round of this tournament. Now, again, Queens University, ineligible to play in the NCAA tournament. They didn't get there with their loss to Lipscomb in the second round of the ASUN tournament, but they obviously can go here and play in the CBI, and they beat Northern Arizona in their first matchup. Good for them. Ashby led them in scoring with 22. They now get Cleveland State. I think they're going to beat Cleveland State. Cleveland State, I watched this team a lot this season. Trust me, I watched more Horizon League basketball than I should have this year. Cleveland State first caught my eye this season with the Minnesota game. They, lost by 11 points, but I've kept an eye on them throughout the entire season. They were really good at the middle of the year, and as soon as we got into February, this team just fell apart. They went undefeated in the month of January. And then they lost one game in December and then 0 games in January. And we got into February, and this team just started losing and losing and losing. And it all started with that game on the road that they lost to the damn Norse in Northern Kentucky. And it just continued to go downhill for Cleveland State as the year went on. They were a one and done in their conference tournament. They play Youngstown State in the first round. They lost by 2 points in a game that they probably should have won, but hell, they split with Youngstown State in the regular season too. So just a very disappointing outcome for Cleveland State. I don't think they have any momentum going for themselves right now, and I think this is a scenario where it really benefits Queens that they just won yesterday. You've been off for so long too. Hell, especially the ASUN teams. That's why I'd be a little bit scared about Jacksonville and FGCU because they haven't played in literally 3.5 weeks. But they're fine. They're not playing the best of teams. Queens definitely has the toughest matchup today. But at the same time, Queens just won yesterday and looked pretty damn good in doing so, right? Beating Northern Arizona out of the Big Sky is an impressive victory. Yes, out of the Big Sky. I don't know why that was thinking whack for a second, but it's a good victory for Queens. They were slight favorites to win that basketball game. Back and forth first half. Queens pulled away in the second half, And an all-around very good victory for the Royals. They were led by scoring, as we said earlier, by Chris Ashby, 22 points in that game. They got 16 out of Yoav Berman as well, who played 19 minutes and 16 points in 19 minutes. And Leo Camillero, who's been one of their leading scorers all year long, dropped 12 in that game. I think they beat Cleveland State. Cleveland State has been so has been so just mediocre on offense towards the second half of the year. Even in their victories at the close of the season, right? I mean, 68 points in a win over Purdue Fort Wayne, 68 points as well in the victory over Northern Kentucky, and their season was ended in a game where they just couldn't score. They scored 54 points against Youngstown State. I think, especially with this team they haven't played in 2 weeks now, I think they're going to start cold. And just as a whole, the Cleveland State Vikings have been cold in the second half of the season. As soon as we got in the month of February, they've just been a different team. Yeah, they're not bad defensively, but you can't win if you don't score, and I don't think they're going to be able to get going against the Queens team. They looked pretty good yesterday. They dropped 45 points in the first half against Northern Arizona. And sure, Cleveland State is better than NAU, but Queens got going yesterday, and I just think it's going to take a while for Cleveland State to really, get it going offensively in this one. So I'm going to take Queens University to win the game outright. You can take the spread too, plus 3.5 for the Royals, but plus 130 on the money line, I actually really like, and hear me out, this is my favorite play of the day. I think it is. Guys, Queens was pretty good down the stretch this season. We kind of just overlooked them because, okay, we knew they weren't going to be in the tournament, even if they won the A-Sun, but Queens, they were very competitive in a lot of basketball games. I mean, when Eastern Kentucky was at their height, they took EKU to overtime on the road. They played a very competitive game with Northern Alabama to close the regular season. Their actual last game, or they beat Florida Gulf Coast in the A-Sun tournament as well, a team that we just put over and said that was going to destroy Army today. Queens, they had their run this year. They beat Northern Alabama earlier in the season as well at Queens. So I don't mind the Royals at all. They had a really good season this year. They'll be eligible for the tournament, if I'm not mistaken, next year. And this is a team that if they, have a good portal, D2 school coming up, I mean, they could potentially make the tournament next season. I like Queens University here to pull off the upset against Cleveland State. I just think it's the lack of offensive, threat that the Vikings have, I think, is really going to screw them over in this game. They have a lot of periods where they're just not able to score, and especially with not playing in 2 weeks, I think Queens gets off to a hotter start. I think that propels them to victory. So give me the Queens University Royals to win here in this second round CBI matchup and advance to take on Florida Gulf Coast, the same team they eliminated in the first round of the A-Sun tournament. So that'll be something tomorrow, folks. Thank y'all for watching our best bets for college basketball today. Here again, only 3 bets, but still thank y'all for watching our CBI best bets. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video, and make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back later today for our NBA predictions and tomorrow for some more NIT and CBI action. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.